What's up everybody, Brian Tong here, and this is my review for the new M3 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro. Do not try that at home, I promise you. But if you're looking at right now, looking at your screen here, you see the new space black color that I have for review. And is space black the new black? Is it even black? Well, that kind of depends on the lighting here, but we already know how amazing Apple Silicon is. I don't have to convince you of that anymore. So how much faster is the new M3 chip, and who does it really make the most sense for to upgrade to this computer? Well, you're gonna find out all that, and I have benchmark tests and real world tests for you in this review that really go as far back as the M1. So you're gonna get some real perspective and comparisons. Now, I'm currently using an M1 Max MacBook Pro back from 2021 as my daily machine. It's fully loaded with its maximum 64 gigs of memory and then 8TB hard drive for all the content that I produce and that you see. Now, Apple, they sent me this fully loaded M3 Max MacBook Pro with the newer 3nm technology. It's a 16-core CPU, a 40-core GPU with 16 gigs of unified memory, and this is their fastest laptop, fully loaded, and it's going to be going back to them after this review. So, is this machine an absolute beast? Yes. Does everybody need this machine? No. Do you want this machine? Yes. Now, there are a few differences with this 2023 model. Design-wise, this is really exactly the same ports, the same body, and the same size as the last two 16-inch MacBook Pros. Of course, you know, the buzz is around the new space black color that does look very dark, but if you saw in my unboxing, to me, it's really more of a dark gray, if you ask me. You could even call it space grayer or dark charcoal. It's just not black, but Apple calls it space black because they can. Now, my overhead lights here, right, this whole studio, they lighten it up more than it normally looks. But when you're seeing something like this head on, straight on in this shot, in other shots in this review, it's really more of an accurate representation of how it looks on the daily. Now, the biggest change to the surface for the space black MacBook Pro is its new chemistry process that forms an anodization seal. And the result is it greatly reduces fingerprints. And in my testing, this thing absolutely does. It doesn't reduce me from spitting on it, which I tend to do a lot. But this is compared to something like the MacBook Air 15-inch in midnight. The difference is really significant. And just for the reduction of fingerprints alone, I'm putting my hands on this. I'm pawing this. I don't need to give you too much information, but I did put lotions on my hands in preparation for this review. But look, I'm pawing this thing, and this whole reduction of fingerprints, this is a real thing, even if it always doesn't look that black for space black. So to me, space black is the best color, and the ports are all the same. You got MagSafe 3, two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, and an audio jack on one side. Then you got the SDXC card slot, USB-C Thunderbolt 4 port, and HDMI on the other side. You also have support for Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. Now, this is the type of machine that will last most people, I'd say, 5 years plus, like easy, really even more than that. And you know, Wi-Fi 7 is already rolling out. It's here. It's not a new technology, but it is not in the new MacBook Pro, and I would have liked to see Wi-Fi 7 support here just to future-proof it, since this is a, you know, pro machine. I mean, I know I'm not the only one that's thinking this. Now, the display, this supports 1000 nits brightness, 1600 nits with HDR content. That's the same as before, but SDR content now gets a boost with support for 600 nits brightness. So that's 20% more than last year's MacBook Pro on this Liquid Retina XDR display. You got the 120 hertz refresh rate and the ProMotion that is smooth like butter. And yes, you still have that notch on the top, and its webcam that is still 1080p, plus its killer studio quality 3 mic array that you could legit record a podcast on. And then you got its 6-speaker sound system with spatial audio and Dolby Atmos support, which just sounds phenomenal. People still don't talk about how good MacBook Pros sound. Plus, you also get an improved 22-hour battery life. I can get through a day and a half easily, if not more, just working this thing pretty hard. This new MacBook Pro just really has everything for a high-end user that likes to edit video at a high level with, let's say, if you want to, 10 streams of 8K ProRes video. Like, I don't even push it that hard. I don't know many people that do. And I talk about content creation a lot because that's what I do, right? This is a tool for me, for someone like a coder, a 3D graphics animator, an app developer, or someone running AI simulations. this MacBook Pro is a powerhouse. And if you want all the power, you could get it, but most of you will never need it. But it also doesn't mean that you won't want it. Now let's get to the M3 Max chip inside, which is the absolute star here. This is the fastest chip Apple has made, because it's the latest. The new M3 chip family also brings Apple's next generation GPU with an all-new architecture and an all-new feature called dynamic caching. This is where local memory gets dynamically allocated in real time and optimizes the GPU. That's based on exactly the amount needed for whatever the task requires. So this significantly increases performance for the most demanding games and apps, and it is an industry first. M3 also has hardware accelerated mesh shading, and that enables the rendering of more visually complex scenes. You also get hardware accelerated ray tracing. That comes to the Mac for the first time for realistic lighting, shadows, and reflections, all in the new M3 chip. And all of these features are also in the A17 Pro chip inside the iPhone 15 Pro that's based on the same 3nm architecture. Now, Apple, I know they're just screaming to game developers, we have what you need. Now, come over already, but let's get to the performance of this M3 Max chip, and there are gonna be a whole lot of comparisons here, so I would just say, buckle up. Now, we're gonna start with Geekbench 6 benchmark test, and I'm gonna use the M1, the M2, the M3, the M1 Max, and the M3 Max. Geekbench 6, they changed their scoring results, so I don't have the M2 Max numbers, but I do have the M2 Max results when it comes to real-world video exports, which is a real data point that matters to me and gives you a better idea of how this thing really performs. So, okay, let's jump into the specs here, the benchmarks, and the tests. And we're gonna first start with my current daily computer that is already crazy, and then we're gonna do a comparison with other machines. So compared to this loaded M3 Max I have in front of you, I told you earlier, my M1 Max has a 10-core CPU, 32-core GPU, 64 gigs of unified memory, and an 8TB hard drive. That was the Max. Now, using Geekbench 6 benchmarks as a point of reference for performance, and I run these tests 10 times each to get a real average, the M3 Max came in with a single core score of 3,208 versus 2,419 for the M1 Max. That's a 30% increase in single core performance. Now let's go to multi-core score. The M3 Max had a score of over 21,000, while the M1 Max was a little over 12,500. So that's a 70% increase for multi-core score performance. Okay, now don't be scared here. I don't want to freak you out here because there's gonna be a whole lot of Max and numbers on this next slide. Yeah, hold on to your butts real hard now because we're gonna go a lot deeper and show you performance of multiple Apple Silicon-based machines here. And it's not all of them, but it's a lot of them to get a good point of reference. Take a look here, take it all in. Now, I already told you that I don't have an M2 Max with Geekbench 6 results, but I do include the M2 Ultra on the Mac Studio at that top end. So let's check out the results here, and you can see the gradual improvement from M1 to M2 to M3 in these benchmarks. The jump from M1 to M2 is more significant compared to M2 to M3. And another thing to point out here is that you can see how the new M3 Max MacBook Pro is pretty close to having M2 Ultra-like power from a Mac Studio. But again, this is M3 Max performance in a laptop that gets that close. All right, now let's go to Metal GPU performance for each Mac here, and I'm gonna give you time to digest this, but again, you can see the jump from M1 to M2. That is a lot more significant than M2 to M3, and we can anticipate that the same trend is gonna follow with the Max processors if you went from M1 Max to M2 Max and then to M3 Max chipsets. So at least it gives us an idea of these benchmark scores, but come on now, right? Let's get to real world tests. For someone who is editing and exporting 4K videos like myself, I run these exports 3 times and the results are always within a few seconds of each other, so I know that there's nothing that's too far off. Now, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I like to be versatile, and we're looking at a 13.5-minute video here with 5 4K video tracks and 5 audio tracks that will be exported out to 4K. And you can see here the improvement across the line, but what's more interesting is with the Max chips, right? The time actually went up a little, not by much, and sometimes you got third-party software and hardware that have not been optimized right out of the gates, but the difference here is also ever so slight, and it doesn't have any significant impact even if it went up a little. Yeah, it did surprise me, but I do run these tests multiple times. And then you look at the M2 Ultra, just absolutely blows everyone out of the water here. But I can't reiterate how fast machines are these days. With an export like this from, let's look back at my fully loaded Intel machine, that was just 3 years ago, I guess. That would take about 25 minutes to export a video like this. So we are so spoiled now. And at the very entry level, the M1, that same video takes about 10.5 minutes. Now, my current M1 Max is at 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Bonkers, that's freaking incredible. Wow, the Max Studio does it in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. That is just absolutely stupid fast. So, okay, now let's push this thing, right? Let's push it a whole lot more, a whole lot harder, and I'll do a longer format interviews on my channel once in a while, just to mix it up, just once in a while. And here we have a 45-minute video project, 20 video, 20 audio tracks, exported out to a 4K video, and you can see the export times here. Yeah, they start off pretty long when you start at the entry-level M1, but this is where everything just falls into line as expected, from the M1 moving all the way up to the M3 Max. That makes sense. And then you have the M2 Ultra Max Studio just to showing off again that this is the beast of all beasts right now. But even content creators, right? They are rarely going to pump out a video that long unless it's most likely a video podcast. But let's keep on going now. Let's go to Final Cut Pro. And this is where software and hardware from Apple that have been optimized to work together. This has always been a killer combo. Now, we're gonna export a 15-minute video with 4 video and 4 audio tracks in the Apple ProRes 422 high-quality format. And this is where results get wild. The M1 comes in at 4 minutes and 40 seconds, but that's because it doesn't have Apple's media engine that is really a speed demon for exporting video. Now, Apple's media engine is in any Mac with an M1 Pro or higher, so the M1 is really the only one that doesn't have it. You can see the difference with every other machine other than the M1 and how it affects it, but look at how little the difference gets when we're getting this fast. We're looking at the Max chips, right? There just isn't much difference that is going to significantly impact my workflow at all. I didn't even know what to expect when I did this. I came in just like, okay, we'll see what happens, but it does make me feel a lot better about my current M1 Max. And again, if you want to be absolutely stupid, go look at the top end Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra. Sheesh. Now, all these benchmark tests are a reminder to me of just how great the Mac is at pretty much any level. But I would say for video editing, if you want to even do the simplest things, just make sure it's, you can do it on an M1, but if you're getting a little more serious, make sure it's an M1 Pro or higher, specifically with Apple's media engine. So there is a benefit to upgrade if you're on an M1 and you're into content creation, if that interests you. But now if we look at this as a whole, like, who is this M3 Max really for? Because it is surely, it's not for everyone. Apple says the new M3 chips are up to 11 times faster than the fastest 2019 Intel MacBook Pro. I believe that's when that one came out for me. So bottom line, if you're on an Intel machine and you're ready to upgrade, this is a no-brainer for you to get an M3 based Mac today, or maybe even save some money and you could find an M2 machine that is still available. Unless you have to use Boot Camp for some reason, an upgrade like this is gonna change your freaking life. Now, the MacBook Pro, it's fast, it's quiet, it stays cool, and its power is insane. I mean, you're really getting top tier desktop class performance on a laptop with Apple Silicon. But I will always say to you, right, if your computer works for what you do, if you're happy with it, you don't need to upgrade at all. I think this is a rule to live by. Like, I thought I might get blown away by the M3 Max numbers, and the Geekbench benchmark scores, sure, they show its raw performance, but when it comes to exporting video projects in real time, it's hard for me to come up with a compelling reason to upgrade for myself when export results are just so close. They're very close with the M3 Max compared to my M1 Max. And over time, software optimization can improve results. I mean, we've seen it happen all the time, but just not drastically, but it does happen. So the takeaway for me is that Apple has made their chips almost too good. I've said that for a long time. It's not a bad thing, but if you have a standard M1 and you want to make a jump to a Max chip, you will definitely get some major gains there. If you have an M2 at any level, you're pretty good. And other than loving Space Black, I'd sit tight. Now, the general consumer who's doing email, surfing the web, word processing, and playing with photo and video a little, you'd honestly be fine with keeping your base level M1 until you really want to make another jump. And as for me, look, I love the space black color when it looks dark. I love its fingerprint resistance from its new anodization process. Like, there's no doubt it's a real thing. But those two features are cosmetic and they are nice, but they're not enough for me to say like, yeah, sure, I'll go drop $7,199 for a fully loaded machine right now. That's hard for me to do. Even if I really want a space black MacBook Pro, like, that just doesn't make sense. So maybe I find a nice deal during the holidays and some nice trade-in value. You know, that might make me pull the trigger, but not right now. And if someone is on an M1 Max and they're a content creator and they say, I've got to have an M3 Max processor, let's be real. They're either doing it for the clout or they just really love space black and have the money to drop the coin. Now, gaming, right? We know about this new GPU. This gets especially better with this next gen GPU on M3. They really have all the tools developers need to get on board, even making it easier to port over currently existing games. You know, we're still waiting for more AAA game developers, and that side of the business is still building and getting better for Apple, but it's still not enough yet right now. Like, I think of my nieces and nephews who all want a PC for their next machine because of gaming, and that's where the next generation's head is at. Now, if Apple got something like PS5's Spider-Man 2 game on the Mac, one of those type of flagship titles, even if it's available 1 or 2 months later from the PS5 launch, then you're really starting to like move the needle a little bit. And I'm sure that's what they're working towards. But gaming is not only their biggest weakness, it's also their biggest opportunity to attract new users to the Mac. I said something similar in my M2 Max review. Well, okay, not last year, but I guess earlier this year because they updated it twice. But the M3 Max is now talking to those like 1%er Apple users with professional work at that highest level. It's just taking them up another notch. So if you're the 10 streams of 8K video person editing, or the 3D effects guru with a 128 gig project that needs real-time rendering, or you're an app developer and coder, this new MacBook Pro is talking directly to you. If you aren't doing anything of that at that level, you really don't need this, but I know there's some of you that are gonna get it anyways. I mean, this is a phenomenal machine, and if you make the upgrade and you can afford it, you're gonna absolutely love it. Now, the new 16-inch MacBook Pro starts at $2,499, but maxed out, we're talking $7,199 before Apple Care and tax. And if you want this same power in a more portable size, you got the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the same maxed out specs. That's gonna be $6,899. Now, the new 14-inch with a standard M3 processor starts at $1,599. You can only get a space black MacBook Pro if you order a MacBook Pro configuration of any size, but you need either an M3 Pro or M3 Max processor. Silver will also be an option for you. But if you order just a standard M3 chip on a MacBook Pro, your two options are gonna be space gray and silver. But whatever you do, I know I'm gonna be jealous, but I think I can wait it out for now, just for now. Maybe there's a killer deal that I can't turn away from. But the sensible Brian is not upgrading, and the video export results just made that clear for me. But for maybe other higher end applications, your results might be different. So, you know, I'm gonna hold on to my M1 Max right now, even if it isn't space black, but space black is still the color MacBook Pro to get, you know, the fingerprint stuff alone. I love that. So there you go. That's my review for the M3 Max MacBook Pro. If it makes sense for you, this is pretty simple, right? That's a good Apple.